What's up, everybody? This is Greg Flammang with Irish Sports Daily. We're doing an instant reaction post-game right now. It's not even post-game. The game's going on. What we're gonna do here, I'm just telling you right now, is we're just gonna watch this rest of this game. Here, let's put up the stats too. Let's get some real-time stats going on. We'll put up the game and we'll watch the game together. The end of this game, we'll do some real-time analysis here, and then we'll just when Jamie comes on afterwards, Jamie will come on afterwards. We'll do the regular post-game show. So we're not doing anything different. But as long as we're sitting around, we're watching backups. As you can, I'm going to be looking away. I'm going to have my eyes over here. Obviously, Notre Dame's up 49-7. It's going really well. I think everyone should be happy with the passing game. I think what we've seen from Notre Dame passing-wise in this game, especially from Riley Leonard, as crisp as he's been. We got a 1st and 10. Here's a nice play. Who came in and made that play? Ben Minnick going in there. Ben Minnick sticking his head in there, making plays. Good stuff. Who's out here? Who's in the chat? We got 39 people watching this show. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. The show is always brought to you by ESQ Clothing. Everyone knows that. ESQ. It's holiday season's coming up, so you're going to want to head over to ESQ. You know how they do over at ESQ Clothing. Bamboo dress shirts. They've got the sport coach, bomber jackets, tuxedos, galas. You got galas coming up. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hit up esqclothing.com. Founded by Ge Wang, Notre Dame alum. You've seen ESQ and all your favorite players and coaches, things like that. Hit up ESQ Clothing or go to the showroom that's in Chicago. Hit up Ge Wang. Mention ISD to get 10% off your purchase. That's ISD to get 10% off the purchase. What's up, Brian Baelish? How you doing? Thanks for being in here. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to us. Let's see. We got 3rd and 2. Corner blitz. Oh, Leonard Moore making plays on the corner blitz. We'd love to see that. He's a good football player. Listen, Leonard Moore. I mentioned it a bunch on the post game show for Louisville, a bunch last week during the bye week. I thought he played a great football game against Louisville. He's a good football player. He's always doing the right thing. He's always in the right spot. David McNamara says, "Where can I finish the game?" It's on Peacock and it's on CNBC. So that's where you're going to want to find the game. It's going to be 4th and 2 right now. It's like Talich is coming off the edge. Oh, Ben Minnick again. Ben Minnick making it happen. Jalen Sneed in there. We got to monitor some Jalen Sneed snap counts. I don't think he's been in the game that much. Ben Minnick comes off the corner, so they sent Ben Minnick on a safety blitz. They brought heat. They brought Luke Talich from the other side on this play. Al Golden, he's bringing heat constantly bringing heat. Brian Baelish said, why did Love not play that much? Is he hurt? I don't think he's hurt. They've got him. Let's see. Jeremiah Love's got six carries. He's got 7 touches in the game. I mean, here's the problem. This ad. I hate these ads. They started out the game just feeding Jadarian Price like that was going to be the deal. It was interesting in the beginning. I mean, I don't know that Jeremiah Love touched the ball for like in the first couple of possessions. Yeah, he definitely didn't on the first possession. In the second possession, he might have touched it one time, but they gave Jadarian Price the bulk of the work in this game. He got 12 attempts for Jadarian Price. Let's see, he had a catch as well. So 13 touches for him, 7 touches for Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Love got in the end zone, obviously, on the 39-yarder where he displayed his speed there. So, look, I mean, they look good running the ball. 8.8 yards per carry for Love, 4.1 for Price. Took some official stats. No, right. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, Love definitely looked good. I mean, it was interesting that they didn't have him in there that much. It was definitely an interesting thing that they obviously felt good about the passing game, right? I mean, they came out throwing the RPO game. Riley Leonard did a really good job with the RPO game, hitting slants a number of times. He had the Bo Collins drop He had another RPO, a couple RPOs in the beginning. Hit the RPO slant to Jaden Thomas, RPO slant to Chris Mitchell. Encouraging game from Chris Mitchell, by the way. 4 catches for 32 yards on 5 targets. Obviously able to get Bo Collins deep. That was a good explosive there. Jaden Greathouse, 1 catch for 19 yards. He got him on a little hookup in the got him in the hookup in the curl route on his own play. I believe that was a 3rd down. Michael Hahn says the pass D is incredible. Stanford has 87 yards passing. That's ridiculous. I mean, they're just so good. They're so organized back there. They just don't give up a lot. They're not going to get a bunch of yards. 87 yards, 10 of 18, 41 rushes. You know, it's interesting. I mean, Stanford really thought, they obviously watched the tape, right? Notre Dame's been giving up things in the passing game for the last, for the first part of 5 games. They wanted to run the ball at Notre Dame. They wanted to put their linebackers in conflict, and the linebackers handled it really well. So that's a good job by them. See a 1st and 10 play. Zangeli, looks like, is this Kedron Young? It is. He looks good. Kedron Young running power, that looked like. Or outside zone, maybe. Lost his shoe. Get that shoe on. Get back in the game. It's a good-looking run from Kedron Young. Notre Dame's got some good young backs. Good young backs. Probably Aeneas Williams. Yeah, Aeneas Williams back in the game. Looks like the wide receivers are Colsey, and looks like KK Smith in there. Ballman, Sherwood. Davis Sherwood is in the game. Let's see. Who are the tackles? Got Tosh Baker. Let's see. It looks like Baker. Scramble from Angeli. Going down in bounds. Good job by you. Let's see. Baker, left tackle. Sullivan Abshers, the left guard. Let's see who the center is. Who's that center in the game? 76. I believe that's Gerby Lambert, as I recall. I believe it's Gerby Lambert, if that's the right tackle, which it probably is. Let's see if they got Kedron Young back in there after he got his shoe on. Yep. Looks like the center is nice run. Nice run. Kedron Young's a good ball player. I'm surprised I think he was hurt. 1st and goal, White Colsey. I think it's fine. You know what's interesting? Speaking of the wide receivers, I barely saw Jaden Harrison at all. They haven't thrown him the ball. Haven't seen him much at all. They said that Faison was probable. They didn't put him in the game at all. I didn't see him one play out there. Looks like it's KK Smith. Kedron Young. He looks good. They want him to score. They got probably, let's see. I got one more. They got to get maybe one more play, 2 more plays before they start taking knees here. Yeah, it's Gerby Lambert. Yeah, I mean, Joseph Barrett, this is good that they showed that during the game. Notre Dame is the highest percentage man coverage team. This is the biggest change, I think, because you look back at all of the you think back to like the 2012 team, right? That was a heavy zone team, cover 2 team. They were in zone a lot. They did not want to expose those corners. I mean, Bennett Jackson did a good job. He was good. I think Kavari Russell, like at times they played man, but generally speaking, they were a zone team, right? The 2002 guys, like those corners, like Walton and Duff, they played a lot of man coverage. But the amount of man coverage that Notre Dame is playing, and especially at a high level, that to me is just kind of like it's like as shocking as like if Notre Dame just became like a hotbed for like defensive tackles, where it's like the defensive tackles are suddenly top of the line college football guys, just like 1st round picks consistently in and out, right? Because Ben Morrison's going to be a 1st round pick. Christian Gray, like I think he's got the measurables for it. This is his 1st season as a full-time player. I'm curious to see what kind of season he has if he wants to move on. Leonard Moore looks really good, so there's just a lot of talent there. And the way, I mean, the fact that when has Notre Dame been the type of school that's bringing in a bunch of, lockdown corners, like Michael Park says, lockdown. Heavy man, almost never give up big plays. Two things never go together. I mean, part of that is the way that Al Golden structures his coverages and his pressures. They just put that they confuse quarterbacks where they're bringing pressure from, what the actual coverage is. It's just very confusing for teams. So Mike DeVore, yeah, it's I got the stats up here. It's still 49-7. Notre Dame's going to be taking knees very soon, if not like right out of the commercial here. So yeah, let's see. Total yards. Notre Dame 463 total yards. Stanford 200. 248 passing yards for Notre Dame. 215 rushing yards for Notre Dame. That'll get it done. 23 first downs for Notre Dame, 14 for Stanford, 5 of 9 on third down. And I think a big stat there is not necessarily the 5 of 9, but the fact that there's only 9. No, Jamie will be on. Brian, Jamie will be on. He's got to do, like, during the game, he's got to do stuff. I just wanted to get going. Like, this portion might not even be a part of the podcast. I might just edit it out. I just wanted to get going. Since I was just sitting around, I was getting kind of antsy. I figured people are just kind of passively watching the game at this point. And so I figured I'll start the stream, right? Never done this before. We've kicked around the idea of like Notre Dame's going to run the ball. Let's see. Oh, they're throwing. Oh my goodness. 49-7 on 2nd and 1. They threw to the end zone. Almost got picked off. That's something. They threw the ball. It's an RPO, so maybe maybe he was supposed to maybe they'll take a knee here. Maybe he was supposed to give it and he just pulled it because he got a good read. I can't believe they did that. Let's see. Ge Wang inside. Yeah. All right. First down. 100% Notre Dame's going to take a knee here. There's no way they're going to keep running. Ge Wang. Let's check it out. Live stats: 5 carries for 30 for Ge Wang. That'll get it done. Good job by him. 6.2. 5 for 31. Excuse me. 5 for 31. They're not taking knees. They're going to run it out. Listen, Marcus Freeman wants his guys to get a chance here. Ge Wang again. Stopped up. My game? Here we go. Let me get the game situation. There we go. All right. These ads are so annoying. They get in the way. Yeah, near INT. I mean, look, you can make the case like if their backups are in and your backups are in, it's just scrimmaging at this point, like getting stuff on tape. I think throwing to the end zone is a little bit egregious. Another run to Ge Wang here. Cut inside. Nice spin. 2nd and 9. That might be it. Like, I get it. Like I said, if you got your backups in and you've got in their backups in, you're getting stuff on tape. It would look not great if Notre Dame scored a touchdown to go up 56-7 with like 10 seconds left. That would not look great. But it looks like they're going to run a play. So let's see. Probably just a power play or outside zone. Yep. Some kind of zone. Ge Wang. First down. That'll end it. It's going to be Notre Dame 49-7. Well, let's see. Yeah, everyone's excited about Ge Wang. How about USC, guys? Oh, Jamie's here. All right. Let's get him in.
I was sitting here, man. I was waiting.
Honestly, I was looking at the TV. I apologize.
No worries.
Yeah. All right. Let's get rid of this for a second. Jamie, welcome to the show. welcome to the show. I'm going to try to do like a little reset here. As I've already done the ESQ ad read, I'm going to try to do a little reset here. Get people, you know what? Let's turn on the light. So this is the part that I'm going to do for the podcast. Before we were just hanging out, I appreciate everyone who was in the chat for the first 17 minutes while we watched the end of this football game. It was look, a good performance, right? Is there anything that you would want more than this, where you have a coming off the bye, right? I don't think you can do the thing where you say to yourself, "Oh, well, it's just Stanford." Notre Dame, when you lose a game to NIU like that, when you don't look that great against Miami, Ohio, right? You win that game 28-3. Stanford's been frisky against teams, not recently now. Okay, we got to keep that in mind. Haven't been super frisky lately, but it's a good performance. I thought Riley Leonard was very good in the beginning of the game. I thought his timing was good. I thought his ball placement was good. I thought they did a lot of RPO stuff. I thought that was good, right? So he was doing a lot of things that we haven't seen this year. We talked about it going into it, right? About you want to see it. You got to see it in this game. He comes out. He ends up at 10.4 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 73% completions. Never put the ball in jeopardy. Good performance from him. Kind of where was your mind at? Just ballpark or big picture on what you saw from Riley Leonard today.
I mean, he was awesome today. I mean, I feel like we've said this like a lot of weeks in a row now, where like, oh, this was his best game. Like, he actually has gotten better every game since the Northern Illinois game. Which now looks like an aberration because he has gotten better each game. So that's been pretty huge. Like it's been huge. And I would say too, just like the RPOs outside of the one that was the Coogan one where which was fun. It was fun how it ended up. But outside of that one where it was like, probably shouldn't have pulled that one. Other than that, was.
By the way, I think it was the only slant that he threw to the right side. All the other ones were to the left, so that's interesting.
Yeah, he threw a couple other RPOs to the right, which were like outs, like outs or hitches, but he didn't. He didn't throw any slants to the right, but I mean, the ball to Jaden Thomas on the touchdown was a seed, and it was also him like changing arm angles, guys in his face. Obviously, the throw to Chris Mitchell, the touchdown to Chris Mitchell was like right on him. Even if you look at like Bo Collins had the bad drop, that hit him right in the chest too. Like, he was very accurate today. He had a couple worm burners, whatever. It happens. Like, considering how good the ball placement was on all the other like intermediate stuff, man, that's what you need. And the deep ball stuff wasn't great. Like, he waited too long on a couple of them. So I think if you're gonna pick nits, you'd say, that's that. Like, you got to get the ball out sooner. Yeah, but I mean, they still did complete like a couple big deep balls, and also too, like the one where it got called back that they picked up the flag, right? Which actually, if you're looking at all the stuff from the refs, that one, it was probably the right call to not call it. It wasn't like egregious or anything like that.
I didn't think it was that bad, honestly. Like, I thought, to be honest, I thought Bo Collins needed to do better. That's just, I was like, you gotta try, you gotta make this play. You gotta fight for it. Yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, outside of that, like, but if you're gonna miss short, so your guy gets a chance
for sure
at it.
For sure. And I think he kind of might have gotten hit too. Like that one didn't bother me as much.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was great, and then obviously too, like there was early in the game too, he had a really great scramble where he basically created like, probably could have been a sack that he turned into like,
Yes.
A third down game. And you mentioned the third down stuff too. And, so prior to when it was just him in the game, they were 5 of 7 on third down and 1 of 1 on fourth down.
Yeah.
Like that's polar opposite of what they've been. And I know it's not a good defense, and I know they're beat up and all that too. So there is context, but it's like, well, guess what? When you're playing a team like this, you're supposed to beat them 49-7. Like that's what it's supposed to look like. And they were selling out hard against the run, like they always do, right? And those RPOs, that was the plan. That was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And they exploited them. And it was great. And like obviously he finished with 10.4 yards per attempt. Like it's like basically double than a lot of the other games that he's had. Like that's massive. It's massive.
Plus, like it's exactly like, look, if you don't know anything about the season, it's exactly what it needs to look like. You know what I mean? Like that is like we look at everything through the lens of what it looked like earlier in the year. I think if you remove that, it's just like that's what it should look like against a team that Notre Dame didn't try to overextend itself. They took shots when they had the opportunities, right? They did exactly what they needed to do. Right, Leonard did not put the ball at risk, right? Because some of those, like the RPO thing, you're throwing slants over the middle of the field when you have everyone condensed there. You're throwing it into bodies, right? So like the almost interception that goes to him, like he's not counting on a guy being right there, right? Like that is a risk inherent in the play itself. It was composed. It was a calm performance, right, from him. The only thing that stopped Notre Dame in the beginning was Michael Hans's the holding calls in the first half. I mean, the holding call essentially ruined their first drive. I mean, obviously,
it was not a holding call. It was not a holding.
No,
like it was a bad call.
You can't look. We're not going to go in on refs in a 49-7 game.
Yeah,
they
were horrible again.
No, honestly,
just bad all around.
The Ben Morrison,
what? And it takes the pick off the
that's unbelievable. How fast the flag came out, Jamie. How fast?
I thought the flag was on the right or the left tackle holding Junior Tuihalamaka because you could see his jersey pull.
Yeah. It's he put his hand. Look, like you can do that. You can put your hand on the guy. That it's total, especially when the quarterback is rolling out. I mean, in college, right? Like this isn't the pros, but even in the pros, it's legal. Once the quarterback leaves the pocket, illegal contact goes away. It's just terrible. Oh gosh, that was
and they called it holding. It just was not.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, you can watch a lot of other plays where you could call holding on corners. You could call it a lot, right? If they called it you could call it way more than they do. But that was not holding.
No,
unless there was something much earlier in the play, then that was not holding. But from based on when the flag came out, that was like, what are you doing?
Not great. It's not good. It's not good. But that messed up the first drive for Notre Dame, and then they were able to move the ball down the field. They were able to matriculate the ball. As I'm watching the game, I'm thinking to myself, because here's the other part. I'm watching it on delay because we had a bunch of soccer games today. Had to get one. So I watched it basically radio silence. I watched from the start of the game to the middle of the second quarter, just like fast forwarding, right? Not talking to anybody. I'm thinking to myself, they have chosen, and this was a deliberate choice by them. They chose to feature Jadarian Price in this game, and they chose to de-emphasize Jeremiah Love.
No, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree?
I saw your tweet about that, but I wasn't going to argue with you on Twitter about it.
No. Let's hear it.
Look at all those calls that were runs that they pulled and threw the ball. those are called runs. Those are RPOs.
Sure, okay.
Like,
all right.
So he would have got a lot more touches if they didn't pull those. But pulling those were the right call. So like
No, no. I'm not.
So they didn't de-emphasize him. They just they definitely made a concerted effort to be like, hey, guess what? You got pulled in the last game, which we've talked
That's
about.
fine. I don't have a problem with that. I'm totally on board.
It was probably, it is also one of those things too that, guess what? You got to make these guys happy, and you're definitely not making a guy happy when you like, hey man, you're out. Like that's after you get the one shot. Like, that's and whatever. It was circumstantial, but still, that's whatever. So they definitely needed to do that. And I don't know, like I don't think they de-emphasize. I mean, you can say they de-emphasize Love instead of like he didn't get those snaps that because he got Price's snaps last game, but it wasn't in terms of Price getting those carries. It wasn't as lopsided as it looked. Plus, they threw the screen to Love.
They did. Here's the other part. To your point, it does seem to me that when Price gets his carries, they are more likely to be of the straight give sort. Than
the read,
the outside zones. Yeah. Like they don't like. I think maybe it's a comfort thing. I have no idea. They
might be like exchange thing where they've had issues there. Yeah.
Because when you mention the RPO stuff, I'm thinking to myself, well, they don't really do that with Price. And then I thought, well, maybe there's a reason for that. And then they wanted to specifically say, we're going to run outside zone with our running back. Okay, fair take. I rescind. Okay, hand up. I rescind. I take your counsel on that. And we move forward. David McNamara asked the question, what's going on with Mitchell Evans? He's not even getting targeted. He had, 0 targets in this game. What do you make of it?
Well, think about a lot of the throws too. Like a heavy amount of the throws were play action RPO stuff. He's in there as a blocker on a lot of those. So that is part of it.
Total tight end targets, one.
It's a rarity for the game. So that was just kind of, I think it was partially part of the game plan. So I think that had a lot to do with it. They easily could have got Evans going in this game. Like this was a game to get everybody going, right? Yeah. Like it just was one of those things. They could have done that. I would have loved to see them take throw a seam ball to him or something. I would have loved that. But I don't think it's like anything that to worry about, like, oh, they're gonna, they're not gonna throw the ball to him the rest of the way. Like that would be stupid. So that would be stupid to not do that. So I think it's kind of just how the game worked out. But I mean, I'll say too, like, it is still a thing that they're going to, because you're going to play in these other games, and guess what? When you need a third down, you shouldn't be throwing to Bo Collins at this point. You should be throwing to Mitchell Evans if it's like, you know what I mean? If it's one or the two or something, right? Like Bo Collins is obviously, he can make plays and he's talented. We all know that. But like, man, the drops have been a problem. They were a problem at Clemson. And he gets the ball ripped out of his hands in this game.
Not good.
Which was after.
It's unfortunate because I was going to say,
made a really good play. Made a really good play. Good catch and run. That's another thing too. Yak in this game was way better.
Yeah.
Way better. That was huge. So I don't know. I think Evans, he's got to be a big part of what they're going to do and what they're going to need later on. And I see it going, but also too, it's just like man, there's so many guys in the passing game that have probably just are just like kind of miserable because, it was like they were saying like, well, this is Eli Reardon's first touchdown. And it was Chris Mitchell's first touchdown. And all these guys, it was like, these guys they haven't been able to eat, So it was that, I think that was the big thing.
It's important that they got Chris Mitchell involved. Just because I think they needed it. Like I needed it, frankly. I needed to see it from him. And he made like every catch that he had, they were kind of in traffic, right? So it's like that's a good way to get yourself involved. KK Smith doing stuff again.
Yeah.
I love to see that. I like him a lot. Switching over to defense for a second. Joe asked a really good question, something I wanted to bring up on this show. Does Josh Burnham start the rest of the way? So Josh Burnham, 5 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, the forced fumble. Obviously, he intercepts the pitch. Let's see. Open. 1 tackle. Listen, if there was any player in this game, I felt like who had an opportunity to do the things that he's comfortable doing and to make an impact, I think it was RJ Oben, and I don't think he did. This is my impression. I'm wondering where you come out on that.
I think he's a guy who must have zero confidence.
Yeah.
Right now. I think he's got zero confidence. Even like if you look at like the big scramble run by Daniels on that first drive.
Yeah.
Which was really, that was their first drive, was that big, huge scramble, right? That was what basically caused it. Oben, terrific get off, great pressure. Daniels escapes. Should have been a sack. It was like Oben did his job. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't. So I look at that and it's just like, if everything is where it's supposed to be, then maybe he ends up getting anything. If Schuler doesn't get like shaken at the next level or whatever, right? Then maybe he is that. And then also too, I mean, I understand like people, he jumps offside. Yes, it's a dumb move, but it's so easy to just give up on that play. So many guys do, which is why they take shots on those things. No, but he still like played hard and forced a hold. So I don't know. I think he's going through it right now and having a tough time.
Honestly, I didn't think that was. I thought he got back. I didn't think it was offsides.
Really? Okay. I mean, he might have.
I thought he had gotten back. Like I thought he jumped, got back, and it's like, I mean, because these guys look.
The refs are not good. Yeah. So
this isn't like these refs thing. I think this is just a philosophical thought on my part. Like,
I think you're right. They call it. If they see a jump, they
jump. But then when they go backwards, like they call it when it's like, oh, his hand is offsides when he's going backwards. Like what advantage are you gaining being offsides? You're going the opposite direction at the snap. Yeah. Anyway, that's a.
No, I think you 100% agree. I always think that's one of those things that they're too quick to throw it there.
Yeah.
Looking for it. It's different if the guy steps forward and actually touches you, but when they're trying to get that like free play, I hate that. And whatever, maybe that's just like the defensive guy in me, but like, I just think that's, I don't know, it's stupid. But anyways, the point is like, I'm not trying to be like, man, RJ Oben, just give him a chance. I'm not just saying that. I'm just saying that like, of just like, you could just see, it's just like, oh my gosh, you could just feel. And then I felt it after that. I'm like, man, I just saw he wasn't rushing with the same confidence, wasn't playing with the same confidence. Yeah. He started the game, right? So one thing about Burnham is that he was playing Viper in this game. So he was the backup Viper in this game. I saw somebody said, it was like Logan Thomas is in there. I was like, no, that's Burnham. Like Burnham was out there at Viper.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is wild. Potential 2-point play here.
This is USC. I'm sorry, Ohio State, Oregon.
Ohio State. Didn't happen, but yeah. So, but Burnham was playing, big the big end earlier in the season, and they could do that for sure. But right now, if he starts, he might start at Viper, because not that Tui Halamaka is doing a fine job, or whatever, but I think you can see like Josh Burnham, like that is just such an elite play.
Yeah.
Like I don't know that, like it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen where you like anticipate it, have the hand eye to knock it, and then grab it out of the air. Like incredible play. And I mean, the one thing is too is like I notice Burnham all the time in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm noticing him all the time. He plays super hard. He plays very good versus the run. He is physical. And I think too, like in this game, obviously they didn't have good tackles, so whatever. But I noticed him more as a pass rusher in this game too. So easily could see him being a starter. I don't know how they'll do it, how they're going to structure it, but he's obviously going to play a ton.
Yeah,
he's going to play a ton.
He just got that that activity level.
Yeah,
like some guys just pop, and he's kind of been that way for a little bit now, right? There wasn't always the production to go along with it, but now that's starting to catch up. So that's really good news for Notre Dame. Rayjon's asking, tell us how we feel about the young linebackers. So Drake Bowen leads the team in tackles. Second is Jaden Osbury, right? KVA, he didn't have like a big tackle game. He had 3 tackles there. He had a pass break up on 4th down. Let's see, where else is he
had
at?
The TFL one.
He has the 1 tackle for loss. Yeah, so I mean, look, that's where it is. Like Jack Kaiser had 4 tackles today. Jalen Sneed, like I didn't see him out there that much. It's just like I think that I don't want to say the writing's on the wall or whatever, but just like the last few games, I mean, I think we see where it's going at that position, where it's going to be those 3 guys with Jack Kaiser in there as well. Those are the guys that they're going to at the moment. And look, the Drake Bowen's been paying it off, right? Drake Bowen's paying it off. KVA's been paying it off. Jaden Osbury's been paying off. Like they're playing well in the game. There's no reason to take them out at this point.
Yeah,
there just isn't. So that's kind of where I come out on that.
Completely agree. I think it's just like, can they, I'm not saying they're going to completely like ice out Sneed the rest of the way. And obviously he did play and he was out there for certain things, but it's just like when other guys are really playing well and producing, it's just like, it makes it hard to kind of, to jump that when, you haven't been doing that.
And the hard part too, and because here's the other thing, right? Sneed 5-star, okay. Bowen top 100, KVA 5-star, Jaden Osbury top 150.
They're like all highly rated guys.
When you have just a whole slew of guys who are very good, if you have a weakness in your game, like I don't process as well as maybe the other guys, or I make a bunch of like little kind of marginal errors. If the other guys don't make those errors, they're going to play over you, right? And it's like, it's a bummer for him because on another team, maybe he doesn't have the caliber of guys playing next to him. And so like you get away with that stuff, right? And then the good stuff can come out a little bit more. But then there's also like those loose plays are still in there. But like for him, that's an issue. But for the Notre Dame defense, it's not. Like that is the type of thing that happens at Georgia, that happens at Alabama. It's like when you have a guy like, or a perfect example is Ohio State with Javonte Jean-Baptiste.
Yes.
Where it's like, why can't he get on the field? It's because they have Jack Sawyer and they have JT Tuileau. And so Javonte Jean-Baptiste is a good player. He has a hole in his game. And so then he's got to go somewhere else and play. And he can, right? And that's the type of thing that happens at a school like that. that's where Notre Dame is at linebacker at this point.
Yeah. I don't think you could say it any better. I think that's really what it is. Like, they've recruited at an elite level, and somebody's not going to play. That's just kind of what it is, right? So it's just like, somebody mentioned Kia in there too, right? And I doubt Kia would have played this year. I mean, he would have played special teams and all that kind of stuff too, but I doubt he would have like played all that much this year. But it's like, he does sure look like a guy who is going to force his way onto the field at some point.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of what it is. It's just like, when there's just so many guys, it's like, you want to have those problems. You want to have those problems, right? And then just deal with it after. And yeah, I think like the Ohio State, the Georgia thing, that's where they're at linebacker right now in terms of talent.
Yeah. We'd be remiss if we didn't discuss Howard Cross and Riley Mills today. You mentioned if Howard Cross plays the rest of the season like he did against Louisville, Notre Dame's in for a big situation. Howard Cross seems to have picked up where he left off.
Yes.
Talk about that. Talk about the way that they played in this game.
Yeah, they were great, but not unexpected at all. Somebody in the chat just mentioned too, because like I put like their interior guys aren't good, like, and then they were missing their center. So, man, I mean, that's the other thing I really want to hit on too, is that Stanford is so beat up, and they are, and that's probably a big part of what having 3 long road trips in a row.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of thing you're going to wear down, right? Not in a row, sorry, 3 out of 4, but still you're going to wear down, and they just don't have the depth. Like, they don't have the depth to, if like a starter goes down, they're like, they don't have the backups that could step in. Like a guy like, Ben Minich at the end of this game, right? Ben Minich would play at Stanford. He would play, might even start. Like, that's where they're at safety right now, right? And I mean, and he's on the 3rd team at Notre Dame, right? Like, that's just kind of where they're at. Like, it's just really, really difficult to do that whenever they lose guys. It's just the drop off is so massive. So they lost their starting center, and the guards aren't even that good to begin with. Like, it's a true sophomore who's like better than he was last year, but he's still not good. And like, they're just the guy who stepped in at left guard, or the guy who's in left guard moved to center. So then the guy who was originally starting at left guard, who got benched, he gets put back in the lineup, and it's just really like downhill from there, because they just don't have those guys. And when they're like, mentioned, like, their DBs are super beat up, and I mean, it can't be an excuse, because you could say, like, I mean, look at Notre Dame and all their injuries, right? So it's a same thing, but that's the reality of where they're at as a program. So that in these games, that's where, I mean, Howard Cross and Riley Mills should dominate like they did, and they did, right? And really, I think too, if you look at like what Notre Dame did versus the run for the most part today too, like, even like outside of those scrambles and them like kind of hitting on a couple like 3rd and long ones where it's like, they're just kind of waving the white flag with those.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't do anything. And that was the other thing. They missed the freshman running back that people were like worried about because he played well against himself. He didn't even play. He didn't play, right? He hurt his ankle. I knew he wasn't going to play. It was like, there was just no way. Like, Ashton Daniels shouldn't even have played in this game. I don't even think, because obviously you saw he hurt his ankle again in this game. And I mean, he gutted it out, and he still, made some plays with his feet or whatever. But they're just not good enough at quarterback. They're not good enough at receiver after Uyeyama. But even like, they can't even get the ball to Uyeyama. Like
Yeah.
it's well, and someone way back, you don't have to find it, Greg, but like it's way back was talking about they were surprised that it was gray on Aya Manor, but that's not how Notre Dame does it. They don't follow. So he wasn't
They do
following him.
field and boundary.
Yeah. So what they did was they just moved him off the boundary. So then because last year, if you recall, like he did not do well against Morrison. And they probably thought, hey, we'll take our chances with Gray. And you know what? They could have had, I mean, early on, he, had a forced a missed tackle against Gray. The hitch and go, it was open. It was a bad throw, so they had a couple shots at it, but even then, that was it. Like they didn't really have anything. And just if you have a guy like that and you can't even get him the ball, like, oh man, like I don't even know how frustrating that must be for him. So, get your degree, Alec, and Notre Dame. Notre Dame look at Alec Manor in the portal because he'd be immediately the dude for Notre Dame.
Yeah, transfer to Notre Dame and do that thing. Jason Z says, what happened to Mitch Jeter? Marcus Freeman said he had a groin issue going on. So I think he kicked early and then it didn't feel good. So they pulled him. Marcus Freeman said in the press conference afterwards that he wanted an offense that looked recognizable to the outside world. So that's interesting.
Jason, it's blunt, but it's true.
Yeah. Jason Onye, is dealing with a personal matter. Someone asked about it. He's dealing with a personal matter and he's away from the team. So that's
why he wasn't out there today.
Yeah, that's why he wasn't out there. Let's see. Everyone's talking about Coogan and thinking Anthony Knapp. I don't understand why we're not talking more about Emil Wagner getting some, like, let's throw him a pass, right? I think he's a good athlete. He's got the feet, right? If you're a shot putter, you got to have great feet to be a shot putter out there, and he's like a really good one. I think Emil Wagner is a space that Notre Dame needs to explore. Something else I was thinking, Jamie, is I think we have to reevaluate our priors regarding questionable versus probable in terms of the injuries, because Michael Kurinsky asking about Rubio looking good in his first game back. I thought he did some good things in the game. We didn't think he'd play. He played. We didn't think that Cooper Flammang would play. He played. Faison was probable. I don't know that he saw the field. So look, questionable might mean questionable, Jamie. It might not mean out anymore. So I think we gotta factor that into our analyses on this. Like maybe Billy Strouth can play. Maybe that's the case on that. Sergio says it looks like Rubio gained some bad weight. Where are you at on that?
I didn't think so. I thought he looked kind of slim. To be honest, I've seen him. He looked compared to what he looked like in the spring, where I was like, ooh, he's gonna need to. He's getting, because obviously he was around, but he wasn't there. He wasn't practicing. I think he got a little too big, and I thought he looked fine. Also, didn't think that, like, I thought he moved really well. Like, I think, you had said, Greg, and I think it's a good point. Like, it would have just been good just to see him dress out.
Yeah.
And then he's there. And he, the fact that he played a decent amount in this game, I think is a great sign. Obviously, too, because whatever, we'll see what happens with Anye or whatever. But, like, if all of a sudden they just, Rubio wasn't ready and then they lose Anye, it's like, wow, that would be a crushing thing. And they also too, they don't just need Rubio for this year, like they did for next year too. Like and yes. I think I thought Rubio really I mean, like I said, they didn't have good guards, but it's like and he did what you're supposed to do against, bad guards. So he looked good. I thought I was impressed with him.
Yeah. Let's see. David McNamara says, kind of wondering now Notre Dame could have been without the injuries. Traore, Botelho, Jagusa, Shrouth, and Craig. Would love to see where the O-line would be. Leonard looking good with pass protection. Yeah, I mean, the thing is like a lot of teams are dealing with this sort of thing, right? Like a lot of teams could say what could have been with this, but I think it's definitely a situation where, especially with these pass rushers, especially with Boubacar and Boubacar and Jordan Botelho, because again, like that's the thing. I'm really concerned.
When they rush four, it doesn't look the same without those
Stanford guys. Had time. And again, the Oben thing, I'm not trying to bang on him or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. It's just like he had I don't want to say so many because it might only be like 3 or 4, but like on those plays, I'm thinking to myself, ooh, this is a good chance to win. And then he doesn't.
Yes, and he didn't win. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I'm almost rooting for him because I feel like he doesn't have a bad attitude. So like if a guy is going to keep a good attitude about it, he's going to keep at it. I want him to succeed because of that, right? I want him to I want it to work out for him, and it just isn't right now, and it's it's concerning, right? Like you don't want to see that. Should we reevaluate our priors on Notre Dame a little bit after this? I think that the NIU game, I think since then, if you throw out that game, you just look at what Notre Dame has done. Purdue, Miami, Ohio, Louisville, now Stanford. Should we reevaluate our priors on that, especially with the way Riley Leonard has looked? Because I'm telling you, after we talked about it, after that interception, he's been a different quarterback. Since that interception, he has been a different quarterback since then.
He absolutely has. I think. Well, I think next week matters a lot
for sure
because I think obviously all the rest of them matter, but I think that next week because I look at it and I don't know if you had a chance to watch any of the UNC Georgia Tech game today or if anyone did, but
I saw the stats.
Georgia Tech, they're not good, guys. It's a team that they have a lot of flaws. I mean, they do a couple things really well. Like they run the ball well. They're physical up front on the offensive line. They run downhill and they hit it, and when they're smart, they just keep doing it. And Haynes King is a really good, he's a good athlete that when he has daylight, he's gonna break something. So that makes them dangerous, but he hurt himself on the very first series of this game and then threw the ball terribly the whole after. He hurt his throwing arm. I don't know if it was shoulder. I don't know if it was hand. Something. His arm was hanging down. He was grabbing his hand. We couldn't really tell. But either way, he was going through it the whole time, and he was not accurate. He was like a 50% passer. He did not throw the deep ball well, which is something that he's done really, really well.
Yeah.
This season. It was the worst he looked as a passer all season.
11 of 22, 127, 5.8 yards per attempt. That's not going to get it done. 48 for 371 will get it done. Does that concern you? I mean, that's how teams beat Notre Dame defensively.
No, that is something that is going to be 100% a challenge. It should be a concern for people.
Yeah.
At the same time, if that is Haynes King, if Haynes King plays in this game, he was out at the end of the game. that their
Zach
back
Pyron. Yeah.
Zach Pyron was in at the end of the game, and they basically bring him in so Haynes King doesn't get beat up like as a runner in short yardage situations. And that guy's not a good thrower. Like he's not, that's not his game. Like he's essentially brought in as a wildcat type guy, right? He's their Justin Lamson. So if it's their backup quarterback or a not healthy Haynes King, and the run is the main thing for them, man, I don't know. Because that I think is going to be a problem, because I just think they'll hit some runs.
Yeah.
But one thing that you haven't seen from people running the ball on Notre Dame this year, outside of one drive, the one Texas A&M drive where they ran it on them, it's the only drive you saw a team like just straight run it and then they just ran it into the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Because NIU tried to keep doing that, and then they
didn't score touchdowns. Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like, I do think like Haynes is a good back. He's a home run hitter back, but like UNC's defense is also not good.
Yeah.
And I think Georgia Tech's defense is bad. I think they're bad. Like they don't have good players. Their secondary is bad. So and they play two linebackers who play all the time, and those guys look beat up too. So I don't know. I think Notre Dame might be catching them at a good time. But I do want to see do the same thing this week, in terms of throwing the ball, because you should be able to do that same thing over, against Georgia Tech. Because they are, even worse statistically against the pass than Stanford. So do that, and then you'll hit some big runs here and there, and then I think I think Notre Dame would win comfortably. And if that happens too, that is one of those. It's just one of those things where it's like a data point where you look at it where I don't think too many other teams. I got to look at Georgia Tech plays the rest of the year, but I don't think too many teams are going to blow out Georgia Tech. And I think Notre Dame has a chance to blow out Georgia Tech after watching them today.
Well, the interesting thing too is Stanford pretty clearly thought they were going to run on Notre Dame today, and that was the plan. They did not, right? 113 rushing yards on, 41 attempts, 2.8 yards a carry. They thought they were going to run the ball on them, and they could not. And so, I think it's important. The Cross Mills thing, the last couple of games is very important for Notre Dame. I think getting a good idea of who you want the linebackers to be, I think, is a big deal for Notre Dame as well. And so I think that trend is good. We do have to be, look, I think we have to be respectful of the fact that Notre Dame's vulnerability in the running game. They haven't given up that is constant. They do not give up points to teams. They do not. They are just not giving up a bunch of touchdowns. Unless Notre Dame gives the ball at the yard line or whatever it is, teams are not getting in the end zone against Notre Dame. And if you can score 3 or 4 touchdowns, you being Notre Dame, then you're just in a good position, right? And that's the thing. I keep going back to that, right? When picking these games, can Notre Dame score 4 touchdowns against every defense they play for the rest of the year? Yes. Can these teams score more than 3 touchdowns against Notre Dame? More than 2? Right? I don't know. Why should we think that? Why should we think that, Jamie? It hasn't happened yet.
No.
6 games in.
I don't think any of the – I think you can say that about – it would be different for, the service academies because they present different. So I just think those games are different, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know exactly how those are going to play out because I do think they, that's just one of those things. It's like, it's very like, tweak here, tweak there with some of the stuff you do. And then, getting stops at the right time. But I also think that Notre Dame is just going to do enough where they're all of a sudden going to get like negative plays against them and put them behind the sticks. So as long as they don't give up like the first down, like play action stuff to them, then I think they'll be fine. But obviously that would be the big worry in those games. But I just don't see any of the other teams. Like, I got to be honest, I don't think USC is going to score that many points on Notre Dame.
Yeah, man, I'm really coming around to that. I mean, going into the fourth quarter or whatever, they had 10 first downs on Penn State.
Yeah.
And look, that the other part is like, you look at that game today, stadium's not empty, but a lot to be desired. And that's number 4 Penn State.
Yeah.
It's like they're 3-3 now. It's going to get, the last time Notre Dame went to LA, they were 10-1 or whatever it was. USC had Caleb Williams, Heisman Trophy, ton of juice. They do not have juice right now. I assure you of that. They do not have juice. They do not have the fans. And now they're really not. And not just that, but now they're 3-3. You still got Nebraska. You've still got Rutgers, who it's like, look, these are, and this is the thing about the Big Ten. And it's kind of the same with Notre Dame too. Like looking at Virginia, who's pretty good, right? You obviously have, you have the academies that are pretty good. Georgia Tech's pretty good. Like they're 5-2, right? You get in these games and USC is not used to playing Rutgers. They're used to playing Washington, obviously. They're not used to playing Nebraska. You're playing a bunch of teams where it's like, these are not like good teams, but they're not awful either. So it's just like it could get ugly-ish in LA.
You're not going against the Pac-12 South.
Yeah.
It's
where
like,
it's just an athlete match. Like that's not it.
Yeah.
That's not it.
Like I don't know if you were thinking this, Greg, but I was thinking this last night when as Arizona State, beats Utah. Congrats to them, right? Like good win for the program.
Yeah.
They've been down, so it's like Kenny Dillingham. It's a nice story. Obviously he's an alum. That's not good football, man. Utah is not good, first of all.
Yeah.
They're not like, they're not Utah of like.
That's not Utah, a good football team. They have not been a good football team all year.
No, they're not a good team. They're not Utah of 2 or 3 years ago. They're not that team. So it's ASU. It's like there's a bunch of these teams in the Big 12 that are going to look like, oh, man, these guys are frisky. And then I think it's going to get to like bowl time where the Big 12 plays like a Big 10 team and gets smoked. If it's, opt-outs excluding all that kind of stuff. Because I just think like it's just a different style. It is like it's way less physical. And that's the thing is like you just don't see it where you're just going to get hit in the mouth all game when you play like Minnesota. You're going to get hit in the mouth when you play Minnesota. And even playing Iowa, which people are like, by the way, Iowa, first time they've had 2 games over 30 points over Power 4 conference teams in the same season since like 5 or 6 years. So congrats to them for actually doing it. But even then, that's a total thing too, where I'm like, Washington goes to Iowa and maybe last year's Washington team was like, yeah, they win that game, whatever. But this year's Washington team, where they have like a brand new offensive line and they got to rebuild, whatever, it's like, yeah, you could just tell they're not going to win that game. They're just not, like, because winning up front still matters. It still does.
Yeah.
And unless you just are so much better athletically, on the perimeter, and just USC is just not there yet. They just don't have that. And they spent the past couple years neglecting. They should be ready to roll right now. They should be in a way better spot. And they're not in a good spot. Riley did a really disservice of not building up the program more.
Well, think of it like this too, right? And I was having this conversation with a friend of mine recently, where I asked, like, because the thing about USC is they've always had dudes at the skill positions as well. Like, they always have just dudes who can threaten you and that you're afraid of. Who are you afraid of on USC's team right now? Who do you think, man? Like, they're gonna, like, we better be careful. They're gonna rip us apart. Who is it? Right? Like, they don't really have a guy. Like, they had a nice run by Quentin Joyner in this game, but that was like a fake end around, like gimmicky play, right? You're not counting on that. Miller Moss today, 6.5 yards per attempt. They ran for 189 yards, but that's a 75-yarder. Again, that hasn't been there all year. It was just a kind of a gimmicky, fluky play, right? Woody Marks, 20 for 111. Like, that's good, right? He had a 28-yard run in there. Look, they're not an explosive football team. Like I said, going into this game, they were 69th in 20-plus yard plays. Now, they had a pretty good game today against Penn State, so credit to them for that. But, like, it's just, they're not that scary team that they've been. And like you said, up front, they don't have it. They simply do not have it up front. You give up 400 yards passing today to Penn State, who just against every other team, they're not doing that. They're doing it against you. I mean, this is supposed to 28 first downs for Penn State. The whole thing about USC this year, Bruce Feldman said that the DeAnton Lynn was the most important coaching hire of the season. You give up 518 yards to Penn State. 28 first downs. It's just that's not it, man. They're kind of a mess. They recover an onside kick here. Oregon did.
They did, yeah. Or they booted it right at the
guy. Yeah. That's smart. That's smart. Let's see. Go to Joe. Joe asked about the Army and Navy, the service academies. We touched on it a little bit, but I do want to make the point to add on to what you've already said about them. Usually what happens is those teams have played like Power 4 programs at this point, right? And usually they've lost to them, but they've had that experience playing against those guys.
Yeah.
Like, if your first crack at it is Notre Dame, that's tough, right? Like, there's a reason that Navy usually does better against Notre Dame later in the year than they do at the start of the year, because if you haven't had it, if you haven't had the speed, you haven't had the strength yet, it's a tough adjustment. And they're going to go the whole year without having it until they get to Notre Dame. That makes it difficult for them. These are good programs. But the other part too is, like, usually they don't really have Notre Dame's attention like that. And this year they will. So I think that's kind of a advantage for Notre Dame in this situation. So,
yeah, I do. I mean, I think that is kind of like the great unknown, really, because they've played, both these teams have played no one. Mm-hmm. They were so Army, won another blow today. UAB is terrible. Like Trent Dilfer's getting fired.
Yes.
There's no way he's lasting.
A disgraceful, like a disgraceful kind of program right now.
Yeah, it's looking like that was like one of the worst hires in years. Like that's like, hey, you just set your program back. You know, like that's kind of where that's at.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at even with, so they are, Army's 134th in strength of schedule according to SP Plus, and then Navy's 131st. So it's only out of 134 teams. So not good.
That would be last.
That would be last. And I think with teams like, so you got to remember, like the AAC, Navy or Army would have played SMU, Cincinnati, those types of teams who are like the best, teams in that conference. UCF, right? Like those are teams that were in that conference before. If you take those three teams out of the conference, you got Memphis. And that's it. And even Memphis is kind of like, up and down. So that's kind of where they're at because they don't even have those teams. So it's like that just the level of athletes overall in the conference is just way, way down there. So I do think like they are playing and executing at a super, super high level. And that is obviously something that you worry about as, the defensive coordinator. You're going to have to worry about that. And they're going to come in confident and playing well and all that. But it is like there is a different speed to it that you're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah. So, look at they have a challenge against Notre Dame. Like Notre Dame, it's going to be tough, right? These aren't going to be games for Notre Dame. I just think there are some variables here that usually aren't the case with Navy, that are in play, right? That we need to take heed of, right? But these are going to be difficult games for Notre Dame. Their defenses, the other part, like their defenses haven't been tested either. That's the other thing. They simply have not. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on that. You got to keep your eye on the ball for good situations. And a good situation for your media company, Jamie, is VSR Media, founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. I want to go back to did someone get ejected from this game, Jamie?
Yeah.
For spitting?
Receiver for
I mean, maybe he can thank Jordan Clark for that, right? Bringing attention to the masses. The spitting situation. You don't want to see that. I want to do a callback to the comments. We've had a discussion on our message board about Marcus Freeman's change in demeanor, right? I kind of brought it up, and it's like something I don't want to say. I say the word, I use the phrase off. Something seems off. I think it's more appropriate to say something has seemed different. He's a different type of, he was different in the post game, in my opinion, than he has been in the past. And his just energy is different. When he talks today about, I want our offense to look recognizable to the outside world, I wonder if that's what it is. Where even after the Louisville game, it's like, I don't like how this looks, right? And if he's uneasy about that, then I think that's totally fair, right? To the point where it's like, I feel like we're good. And this is a conversation we've had too. Like Marcus Freeman thinking about his team, like, hey, we're a good team. I want to be a great team. We kind of talked about that this week. I like it when there's a symmetry there between the things that we talk about and then the head coach brings it up. I feel like that feels good. But where do you come out with that? Like, I do think that's right. Like, I do think there's a possibility that Marcus Freeman is looking at the situation with Notre Dame and saying, I think we've got better. I think we've got better play in us. We're capable of more, and I want to see it. And I think that's where he came out. I'm wondering where you feel about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of it I do think is what we talked about last week too. I think there's definitely like all the pressure is weight. I mean, every game means everything now. Every game means everything. Like they might have a extension done. They cannot announce it. They can't. They just can't right now because if something happens after, like they have to play out the season and they got to win out. Like that is kind of like where they're at, and they just, and they've lost these. The fact that he has the reputation of like, hey, you lose to these bad teams, like, which is fair but unfair, but it's reality. So that's just, no one wants to have that reputation. But that's what it is right now. And he also, I think it's also being realistic in understanding, like, if you go and watch the other teams that are playing right now, which is also why, like, it was super important for Notre Dame to win and dominate this game and win as much as they did, because Clemson just put it on Stanford and they won 49-14. And so if Notre Dame won, say, even if Notre Dame won 35-17, which you're like, okay, comfortable win, maybe they get like a backdoor, cover kind of thing at the end and whatever. But even that kind of thing is like, would be bad, because you might, there are going to be people who say, well, Clemson at 10-2 is better than Notre Dame at 11-1. Like, people will say that if you don't do this, right? So that's part of it. And it's also too, like, you're looking at recruiting and all this, and you just, you lost Deuce Knight, and obviously that was over a long period, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just so much harder to recruit guys when it's like, man, wow, season high 190 yards passing today. I know it was 229, but you know what I mean. I'm saying that they were pointing it out during the game. I was like, I know he is playing better, so people who are following it understand what's going on and all that kind of stuff. But still, perception wise, in the whole thing, like today, like, I just happen to like pay attention more to like what the halftime like show was saying, especially because it was like there was the break, right?
Yeah.
But Sims has been killing Notre Dame's offense. Be like, why don't they run play action? Why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? He has been, and probably correctly, for the most part. And you're gonna play certain games where it's like you can't do these certain things in terms of protections and whatever, because it's like you're gonna be overmatched. But against Stanford, against even this Georgia Tech team, against a lot of these other teams, you got to be able to do more, and you have to be able to, like, hey, guess what? We're gonna hit you over the top. Guess what? You're gonna sell out here. Yeah, we're gonna hit you over the middle here, just on a skinny post for touchdown. Like, that kind of stuff matters. It does. It totally matters. It matters of just like how people, if people come in, and maybe it looks great that so for like even Georgia Tech today, right? Where it's like, I mean, coaches, yes, you do and you don't care in terms of like, you win, hey, great. We ran for 300 something yards, great. But like, no one wants to throw for 120 and then rush for 300. You want to you want to throw for 200 and then rush for 300, or throw for 300, rush for 200. You want that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You want balance. You want everyone to look at all recruits to look at your offense that you're running and say like, yeah, I want to play in that. I want to play in that. And there just hasn't been a whole lot of like things where you would say, man, I want to play in that for Notre Dame's, unless you're like O-line or whatever, right? Like even for the tight ends right now, you'd say like, no, they're not really doing as much. Like Evans isn't getting as much. So there's a lot of that right now where it's like, you know, you got to keep the guys on the team happy. You got to get these recruits happy. There's all of this. And you also have to get the committee. They have to look at them and be like, yeah, Notre Dame can, you know, yeah, they're good enough to host a playoff game.
Yeah.
They're good enough to host a playoff game. And also, too, you want to be at a point where when you play in the playoffs, you think you could win it because your defense is great, but defense only gets you so far. It does, right? You have to have both, or else you know, that's where it's funny because Oklahoma, sorry, now this is kind of a tangent, but it's related because Oklahoma, you know, under Riley, their whole thing was high-powered offense, super entertaining, god-awful defense.
Yeah.
And then Venables came in. It's like former OU defense coordinator, longtime successful defense coordinator at Clemson. It's like, wow, now OU, back to those Stoops days. Like the highest level of Stoops days, they're playing Bob Stoops, not Mike Stoops playing defense coordinator, but Bob Stoops, early Bob Stoops, where it's like, man, defense and all this. But now their offense is whatever, you know? So you got to have both if you're going to win, and that's just what it is. And if you don't have both, or you aren't looking like you can compete because you're going to play another team that's going to have a good defense.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do when you play a good defense? There's only so many times you can go to a Louisville and say, hey, we called the perfect play to win this. So that's just that. To me, all of this is just Marcus Freeman reacting to the reality of it, where he knows that no matter how we can win all these games. But who cares? Just like how all these people who are Notre Dame fans who are listening to this right now, they all care. People don't just want to make the playoff. They want to friggin' win. And so if you get to the playoff and then you have no chance at winning because your offense is only this, like, I think that's exactly what he means by saying that.
I think too, I brought up on the board, he has like 8 kids.
That's such a good point. That's such a good point. Yes.
People with 8 kids are stressed.
Yeah.
I
Oh my God, that's so true. It is true.
I have 3 kids, and I'm on my wit's end at all times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I just, you know, and I got asked, like, you know, is it a good thing or a bad thing? I was like, I don't know what it is. Like, it's a thing. I don't know what.
Well,
I do think his comments, though, like, that makes sense to me. Where if you're upset because it's like, I don't like, because that is like, he is where the fans are on that front. Like, the fans aren't happy with how it looks. And so if it makes sense that he wouldn't be too, right? Like that makes total sense. So that's kind of where I come at with that.
I just want to bring up one kind of piece to that too, because I saw people bring this up on Twitter after that Burnham play, which was obviously just a spectacular play.
Yeah.
And that's normally the kind of play the head coach is like, he is getting right up to Burnham and he is jacked for him. Especially Marcus Freeman would just be so excited about a defensive guy make a play like that. He'd be pumped. But when they showed him, he looked angry. And the reason, though, he looked angry because the refs were like meeting to discuss whether or not it was a forward pass or whatever, which absolutely meant nothing at all to the play because either it was an interception or a fumble, whatever. It doesn't matter. He caught it. Why are you even discussing this? It just shows their total ineptness that they were discussing it. But he probably saw them doing that and was thinking like, are you kidding me? Are they calling this back off something stupid? Like, because that's the kind of thing that has happened. I mean, it happened already in that game, right? With the Watts pick, right? So I think that's what that was about. I can't see any other reason why he'd be angry about like,
of course,
guy making just an incredible play.
Yeah. Refs, bro. Refs. So I think going into the game, I think whatever Notre Dame fans wanted to see, what we wanted to see, we talked about the passing game, real strides in the passing game. And like I said, since the interception against NIU, he has been a different quarterback. We haven't seen that type of play from him since then. And there's been enough games now to where you can say like, hey, that's enough of a sample size to where the bad, like the real bad has been thrown away. And we're starting to see some real good play from him, which in turn raises the level of everyone, right? The wideouts, the passing game, the running game, the offensive line. There's a lot more to worry about with Notre Dame's football team when Riley Leonard's throwing the ball like that, because they obviously have got the backs to really hurt teams. Jamie, I think we can leave it there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please hit the like. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. So whatever it is, we are going to go live. I will be live tomorrow morning with my morning after recap show, 10 a.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m. Pacific time, going over stats, going over conversations, college football, right? We'll see what the outcome of this Oregon-Ohio State game is and talk about whatever you want in the chat. It's a really good time. It's one of my favorite shows of the week. So hope to see you all there. And if you haven't, again, subscribe to the channel. Hang in with us. It'll be fun. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Notre Dame, what is it? 49. Stanford 7. Really good performance from them. Have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning. Keep hitting.